This is Inside Badger Football with head coach Trey Shucker. Inside Badger Football is brought to you by Bell Wealth Services, Welch Funeral Home, Austin Wingfield State Farm, Southern Bank Corp, Southwest Sporting Goods, the accounting firm of Turner, Rogers, Manning, and Plyler, Taylor King Law, Price and Company, Doctors Rob and Gary Rucker, Eccles Thompson and Kneebone, Certified Public Accountants, South Central Connect, Java Primo, Southwest Auto, R&T Dixon Enterprises, Arkadelphia Tire and Outfitters, Patterson Federal Credit Union, Batson Signs, Print Mania, Agent Jake Knight at Pennington Insurance, Cry Like Pro Elite Realty, and Sheffield Music Company. The host of Inside Badger Football is Chase Hartzell.
Hello and welcome back to a brand new season of Inside Badger Football with Trey Shucker. I'm back with Coach Trey Shucker. Coach, welcome back for round 4.
Yeah, it's good to be back. We're excited that it's football season. We're able to come do this again.
All right, so Coach, obviously with any new season, there's always a set of excitements and challenges going into the year. Let's start with the excitements. What were you most excited about coming into this new season?
Just the start of the season, getting ready to see the new team, and every year's different. Every year we've got new players in different positions and ready to take roles and leadership opportunities, and just every season, every team is different. And so just the start of this year is much anticipated. We've worked hard all spring and summer. Our kids have done a great job preparing, and just to see these kids get out on the field and go prove what they can do, that anticipation is always exciting at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely. And moving on to the challenges side of things, we had an unusual weather week in Arkansas last week. We had a heat advisory throughout the week. If temperatures weren't in the triple digits, they were constantly flirting with triple digits. How did you battle that as a team going through that unusual time?
Yeah, so we've been out in the summer we've been outside all summer, and this time of year, this is something that we're familiar with. This is about every year now. There's always a week to where we have to battle the temperatures, and everybody in the state was battling it and doing different things. Some teams were practicing late at night. We chose to go before school in the morning. We practiced from 6:30 in the morning to 7:30. And then in the afternoon during the athletic period, we brought them in and watched film and did corrections, installed some things, walked through, and then got a lift. And so it was a shorter afternoon and an early morning. When we felt like our kids were prepared and ready for that, and at the same time making sure our kids stayed safe.
Well, somebody else who seemed prepared, I should say a group of people that seemed prepared, were the Badger faithful, because even though it was hot outside last Friday, it was a packed house for the season opener.
For sure. It's always an exciting year, the start of the season. We have a great fan base, and they proved it Friday night. We chose to move game time to 8 o'clock Friday from 7 o'clock normal start time, just due to the temperatures, and we just felt like it would be better for everybody overall and keep the players and the referees and coaches safe, and then everybody else involved as well, cheerleaders, band, fans as well. So. But even so, we had a great turnout from both sides, really, from our fan base and Camden.
Well, now we move on to talk about Camden Fairview. This is a team that's had a lot of success in the past couple of seasons, 10 wins in each of the last 2 seasons, including a conference championship back in 2021. That was the last time they beat the Badgers. Unfortunately, repeating that effort here this week. This is a team that has always had athleticism and size, and it seemed especially so here this year.
For sure. They're a typical Camden team. They're big on the front. They're athletic, outside of that. Coach Vaughn, it's his second year, head of the program. He's doing a great job coaching his kids. His kids they got a great football team. Last year they were a semifinal run. I wouldn't expect anything different this year from them. They do a great job over there, and they're a really good football team. We're happy to get to play them just because it's always a good game. It's good competition for us, and it prepares us for our conference season and everything after. So it's always a good game with Camden. It didn't go our way this time. We've been in a back and forth battle every year with that, but it's always good to play Camden and it's always a good battle and it tests us.
And you mentioned battles and getting those experiences against good opponents. Obviously, Camden Fairview, one of those opponents, but looking at the talent that the Badgers have this year starting out, there's a lot of young talent in the lineup. You look at the interior defensive line, 3 of the 4 starters on Friday night were sophomores. Nykeeson Wimberly, the lone exception, he's a junior too, and much of the same on the offensive line as well as a few other skills positions. What did this game mean for those young guys who really got their first good look at a quality opponent from a higher classification in a real-life game situation starting out?
Well, it's huge, and, going against a team like Camden, they're getting thrown right into the fire, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that helps those guys grow quicker, kind of teaches them to grow up per se, but just the experience alone on against a team like Camden, they can learn so much from. They understand the speed. And so whenever we play a team that, that's not like Camden, it might slow down for them a little bit quicker and they might feel a little bit more comfortable. But we've got quite a few sophomores playing on both sides of the ball. Those are guys that we feel confident in. We feel good in those positions. Those guys have to grow up a little bit quicker than, normally they would. That's okay. We've got a great group of seniors to lead the way and set the example. A great group of juniors that have been in the same situation. We had a lot of sophomores playing for us last year as well. And so we've got some returners that know how to get those guys on the right track and keep us moving forward.
Now, obviously, you never want to see a loss in that decision column,
Right.
But as we just mentioned, there were some positives as well, starting off with that experience for some of the younger players, getting a fresh start, for many of them, getting to have their first start at the varsity level. What were some other positives that you saw in Friday's matchup?
Yeah, there's a ton of positive takeaway. I thought we fought hard for 4 quarters, and that's one of the main things, especially this time of year. I know in the pregame show I talked about, it really comes down to who can outlast here early in the season. And, I thought that, we didn't deal with a lot of cramps. We didn't deal with any injuries really per se. A few bumps and bruises, but nothing major. And in the preseason, the wins matter. They always do. But they're not detrimental to the season. So, yes, we want to win. We're upset about the loss. We always will be if we're in that situation. But there's so many things to build on and take away from. I thought that we executed for the most part pretty well in defense. There's a few things here and there that we've got to shore up, especially from some of the younger guys, and that's okay. Offensively, we were able to sustain some drives early in the game. We created some explosive plays, but we just got to learn to continue to do that for 4 quarters, and that's really what it comes down to.
All right, and we're going to take a look at some of the highlights from that game, and we'll see some of those big plays early on. This was the game against Camden Fairview last week. So here you can see the team taking the field at All Care Field for the first time this year, and we see the return of the Sparklers that made their debut last year in 2022.
They sure did. Our kids love that. Anything that builds the environment, gets them ready to play the game, hypes them up, we're all for it. So that's really what it comes down to, just creating a great environment for our players and getting them ready to play the game.
And you'll see glimpses of it in the background too, but Camden Fairview, obviously not the easiest trip to make, especially on a hot night like that, but they brought a full crowd as well for the visiting side.
They did. They coming off a semifinal season last year, their fan base is excited about what they've got coming back as well. One of the best starts of any season that I've been a part of, the first offensive play of the season goes for a touchdown, a long touchdown. But Evan Bailey, he's a senior receiver for us. He's played in a lot of games, been in a lot of big situations. Really takes advantage of it, and then Cade McBride sees it and gives him a good catchable ball to where he can get it caught, secured, and then everything else is Evan Bailey just being an athlete. This is probably one of the most negatives of the night. In the past, we've taken a lot of pride in our kickoff unit, and we still do. It's one thing that we really like to do a good job of pinning returners deep in their own territory, and really I just think that just came down to we're really excited to play, and we're all just running, and we got out of our lanes, and a good athlete just makes you miss. And then Nick, really good job getting a handle on the PAT there and preventing them from getting an extra point.
And already on this drive, seeing one of the strong suits, Cade McBride seems to have that option keeper down.
Yeah, and that's something that you didn't see in the scrimmage. We wanted a quick whistle with our quarterbacks in the scrimmage game with Lake Hamilton, but he's a threat running the ball. He's an aggressive player. He's played linebacker the past couple of years for us. He's not afraid. He's, as you see, he's very decisive. And when he tucks and runs, he's getting downhill quick. And so, that's one of his best strong suits. Right here, put our heavier unit in, we get close, we put our heavier unit in, and we just quarterback sneak it, the way Cade's playing. Up front, we've got some size up there that we feel good about. And really just comes down to being big on big and getting those big guys in front, creating a pile, and Cade getting over top of it.
And there you see Atkins Jr. completing a pass for Camden Fairview. A little bit of a departure for Camden Fairview, who had been with Martavius Thomas, more of a run-first quarterback. And this time we have Atkins Jr. here, who is more comfortable as a pocket passer, but he also proved that he could improvise on the fly as well.
Yeah, he's a good athlete. He's got a big arm, and as you see right there, he delivers the ball really, really well, especially whenever he's got the time to do it. They're big up front, and as you see, they create a lot of run lanes for their running backs, and they do some different stuff with different receivers. But up front they've got a big line that can wear you down, and then they've got the skill players that make you have to run. So they're very effective offensively. They're good at what they do, and they know who they want to get the ball to.
And on this night, there were 2 or 3 different running backs that you could look to for Camden Fairview that made big plays throughout the night.
Yeah, and that's one thing that is pretty consistent with what Camden does. Every time that we've played them in the past, they've, ran 2 or 3 running backs, and they usually have a whole stable of them. They do a great job, having enough guys to be able to control the run game, and then all of a sudden they'll lull you to sleep, and then there's a big play in the passing game. So it's one of those things where you have to be awake and be ready at all times. They went for 2, and here it is. They found one of their best players, number 4. He was one of the better players that we've seen in a while. Just electric anytime he was able to get the ball. But ball security is one thing that we struggled with this game. Moving forward, that's a pretty quick fix. I would like to think. That's one thing that we can work on in practice. We've worked on it move up to this point, but in game situations is really when you show what you need. This first game, there's so much that you can learn from, and that's one thing moving forward. Our defense does a great job at creating a few turnovers themselves. That was a positive. Overall, we turned it over 4 times offensively. Defensively, turned Camden over 3 times. So in the long run of the game, that was one thing that hurt us on the final score. We lost the turnover battle. But there's a lot of positives that you can take away from in the first half. Defense creating turnovers, offense is moving the ball and sustaining drives. We scored on 3 quick drives, and one of the bigger plays right here, we ran a reverse to Jaquavius Purefoy. He's one of our better players as well. Electric anytime he's got the ball in his hands. He's a guy that we feel good about. And as you saw right there, we executed really well. Throwing that in there was big for us in that situation. As you can tell, they want number 4 to have the ball. We kick it to somebody besides him. That was one thing going in. We didn't want to kick it to 4. We kick it to somebody else, and that person tossed it to 4. So he's the guy that they want to have the ball in his hands, and he's one guy that we had a hard time stopping. Anytime that he had it, it was tough to get him down. Yeah.
Really strong series there from the Arkadelphia defense, really stepping up and making some big plays there in the middle of the field.
Yeah, we were playing tough there early. Offense and defense I thought was meshing really well. Offense was moving the ball, defense was getting stops, creating turnovers. We did turn the ball over a couple times there. We turned it over once up to this point. You know, we're sustaining drives. It's a big fourth down throw and catch. Senior Cade McBride throwing to senior Nick Williams is a big catch. And, you know, this was just one of those unfortunate plays for us on the night. You know, we take a shot to one of our playmaker receivers, Evan Bailey, and ball's a little low and behind and just somehow ends up in the DB's hands. DB ends up with it, and so it's another turnover. You know, that was our only interception on the night, but came at a bad time when we were really driving. We had some momentum. We felt good, and it was kind of deflating to us at that point of the game. That was one thing that we knew that they were going to try to do moving forward. Get number 4 the ball any way they could. They'd throw bubbles to him. They'd throw him on some posts. They'd do different things, but we did the best we could at making sure that he didn't touch the ball, and they found ways to get him the ball here and there. We just tried to limit the times that they could get it to him.
And here's one of those times that we see Atkins Jr. scramble away. Didn't do it often,
yeah,
but seemed to find a way to do it in the big situations, especially in late downs.
Yeah, they did a great job of, you know, their rush lanes. Or, you know, Kelburn Middleton right there. He had probably one of the best nights that he's had in his career. You know, we'll talk about it later, but, you know, had like 5 tackles, had the interception, 2 forced fumbles. One of those fumbles he returned for a touchdown. Just a big night for Kelburn.
And here's Haygood again on the kick return. That one would come back due to a penalty.
Yeah.
But again, as you said, he had the hot hand Friday night.
Yeah, he sure did. And, you know, most teams put their best player back to field punts. And going into it, you never want to punt right to somebody's best player. And so that's, you know, just one of those learning points from our team. Like, can't punt straight to somebody's best player and expect something good to happen.
And this was a big play right here going into the later part of the second quarter, because even though right there it appears that there might have been a conversion, forward progression was called dead, and that allowed the Badgers to retain the lead 21-20.
That's right. And, you know, we take pride in trying to keep teams from putting points on the board any way that is, whether it's blocking a PAT, keeping them out from a 2-point conversion. You know, yeah, they just scored, but we still don't want to give them extra points. Here's another one of those plays where we're driving, we're doing good, and then just turn the ball over unexpectedly. You know, we just got to have better ball security overall. It's something that we can easily fix, and we will fix it. It'll be a bigger point of emphasis this week moving into Hot Springs for sure. As you can see, anytime number 4 had the ball for him, he's getting a lot of yards. Almost another pick right there by Kelburn Middleton. It was one of his PBUs on the night. And I believe if Kelburn catches that in stride, it'll be hard to catch him moving after he gets that.
And that play right there from Haygood brings us to halftime, now moving into the second half. And this is where Camden Fairview liked to pick up the momentum in a 1-point game.
Yeah. You know, they started with the ball in the second half. Again, you know, we kick it away from 4. The return that we kick it to tosses back to him and lets him go do his thing. And he's a tough player to bottle up.
Something, though, that did stand out, especially in the later part of the second quarter and the early part of the second half, is that you saw a lot more of that interior line play that you're accustomed to seeing from the Badgers, from younger players who were just making their first appearance at the varsity stage.
Yeah, you know, we feel good about those guys. Sure, we've got to get better and improve in a lot of ways, but, you know, this is a good test for them. This is a really good first opening of high school football for those sophomores and those guys that have not gotten in on Friday nights. And, you know, pretty much, you know, this is a physical game. Camden's a physical team. And, you know, it's a good eye-opening experience for those guys and know what the expectation is moving forward.
So with the 2-point conversion, it is now 28-21 in favor of Camden Fairview, but Arkadelphia with a chance to get a positive start here in the second half. There's a good catch by Evan Bailey. Also got to look at a new quarterback there in the second half as well.
Yeah, we ended up bringing Maddox Finley in the game. He's a sophomore for us. We talk about, sophomores getting experience. He was put in a position where he had to take the field and pretty much take over the whole second half. Cade McBride got his second personal foul, and anytime you get a second personal foul in one game, you're not able to finish that game, and you're out for 4 quarters from whenever you get that second personal foul, and that's what happened. And so Finley came in, and I thought he did a great job handling it. As a sophomore with a senior in front of you, I don't think you could probably expect to get in the first game of the season and have to take over the whole second half. He'll be the starter this next week as well when we're playing Hot Springs.
Camden Fairview, they were stopped a few times by this Badger defense, but it seemed like over time they just continued to pound the ball forward, and that maybe wore down the defense a little bit.
Yeah, they did, and that's one of their strong suits. Just when they match up against us, they're bigger than us up front, and just putting some heavier guys in to run the ball, some bigger offensive formations. That really plays in their favor whenever they're playing us.
And even though some of the players seemed fatigued, it never seemed like there was a lack of fight at any point in this contest.
There definitely was not, and that's one of the best things that I can say about our team from Friday night was we fought hard the entire night. I didn't see anybody hanging heads and just ready to get it over with. I thought we fought hard and tried to win the game the entire 4 quarters.
And that was a big play there for Finley, going on the quarterback keeper, and D'Angelo Buckley getting some good runs as well. They did a good job of plugging up the holes, but the sophomore quarterback and the senior running back making some good plays there in the middle of the field.
Really did. We had a couple drops that ended up stalling the drive, and we had a penalty here and there. It just seemed like the whole second half was just tough offensively. But, you see this play right here where Kelburn gets a strip sack and then picks it up and scores. That's huge for us. There was a penalty that put it closer for the extra point, so we decided to go for 2, and we ended up not getting it. We didn't execute the play, and they kept us from getting a 2-point conversion. I feel like if we'd have got that 2-point conversion, it would have sparked us a little bit more than it did, and we probably would have been in a better position to take the game over, but it didn't happen that way. Number 8 had a really good night as well. 4 and 8 were 2 of their better players. 8 was a 2-way player and played outside linebacker on defense and safety at times. But he had a really good night offensively as well, and we knew moving into it that 4 and 8 were really good players and that we had to do a good job tackling those guys, and we did at times. We take a lot of pride in the way we tackle and how aggressive we are on defense and pursuit. We just weren't as consistent as we'd like to be right now. We weren't as consistent as we'd like to be in our execution on offense. And moving forward, those are 2 things that we're going to work on and really improve on. They say that the best improvement in a season is from the first game to the second game. And so we're really excited to take on that challenge. It's a quick turnaround this week when we play Hot Springs. We play on Thursday, being the Fearless Friday game of the week. So it's one less day to prepare, but we're ready to take on that challenge and get to the game.
All right, and again, the final score in that contest, 43-27 in favor of Camden Fairview. We take a look at some of the defensive stat leaders there. There were some good plays there. Looking back at this week, even though the result wasn't what you were hoping for in terms of a result, there were some standout players throughout the week, and we're going to reward some of them here with Badger Player of the Week awards.
That's right. Offensive Player of the Week was senior offensive lineman Hunter Blakeney. Hunter's a senior for us. This is his first true start, and he's done a great job at being consistent in his work ethic up to this point to put him in a position to be a starter for us, and he did a great job. He's the only senior we have on the front line, so he's in a big role where he has to lead, and he's doing a great job of that. He graded out at the highest grade out for the night, graded out at a 90%. And, that's really good for our offensive line. I thought our offensive line as a whole played really well on the night. especially having some younger guys on the front line. We had to replace all 5 of them, and Hunter's a big part of making sure that our front line is what it needs to be. Defense was senior DB Kelber Middleton. He plays corner for us. He's been in a lot of big game situations. He had the best night that I think that he's had yet. He had the interception. He had 2 forced fumbles. One of those fumbles went for a touchdown. He picked it up and scored in a big situation that we needed something good to happen. And then also had 7 tackles. So just a huge night for Kelber Middleton. Special teams player was sophomore kicker Seth Molinari. Seth came to us in the spring, was like, Coach, he came up to me in the lunchroom, was like, Coach, can I kick? I was like, well, can you kick? He's like, I can kick, Coach. So he comes out in spring ball and tries out and does a great job for us. And over the course of the summer, earned his way into that starting place kicker role. And so he kicks our PATs, was 4 for 4 on the night, did a great job. And then Spirit Award this week is Cypress Blakeney, younger brother of Hunter Blakeney. But Cypress is a 9th grader, does a great job. He's our film guy. He films our practices every day. He films junior high practice or junior high games, and then films our games as well. He's pretty much our go-to when it comes to our managers and make sure things are taken care of and done. He's done it all summer, and he's very reliable for us moving into the season. So we're happy to have him as well.
Absolutely, and congratulations to all of this week's winners. A big week at the Blakeney House.
Yeah.
2 different winners in this week's Badger Awards of the Week.
That's right. Blakeney family does a great job raising their kids, and they've got 2 good ones in Hunter and Cypress.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the other scores from around the conference again, week 0. You saw the score that we just broke down, 43-27 in favor of Camden Fairview. Nashville was also facing off against a 5A South opponent in the form of Magnolia. The Panthers proving victorious in that one, 48-20 at home. Waldron taking on Paris. They fall on the road, 32-14. Malvern, the defending 4A state champion out of the 7-4A, taking on a new opponent, Walnut Grove out of Prosper, Texas. Back and forth affair at Cliff Harris Stadium right here in Arkadelphia. But Walnut Grove proving victorious in that one, 57-54. Ashdown with a big win on the road against Hamburg, 18-15, defensive battle there. And then Mina, rivalry game against DeQueen, also with a big victory there, both in terms of the meaning of the win, but also in terms of the final margin, 39-7 in that contest. And now we take a look at this next week's schedule. Lamar traveling to Waldron. The Hope Bobcats will be going to face the Scrappers in Nashville. Mina will be visiting the Center Point Knights, and a little bit of a Hot Spring County rivalry there between Glen Rose and Malvern. DeQueen taking on Ashdown, and of course the game that we're about to talk about right now, Arkadelphia going on the road to take on the Hot Springs Trojans. And Coach, you alluded to it a little bit earlier in the broadcast. You talked about the quick turnaround with this week being a Thursday night game. As a coaching staff and as players, how do you address that loss of an extra day?
So it can be really good. It can also be really bad. I say bad. It can be tough to get things prepared and ready and shored up. At this time of the year, I think it's awesome just because it's been so long since we played. We've been waiting for this point. Hot Springs is a good opponent. They're going to be just like Camden. They're big up front. They're athletic on the edges, and they've got a really good quarterback that can throw the football. He's probably going to be one of the best quarterbacks that we see all year. And so we've got to be ready. I think that we're going to have a good few days to get ready. But really this time of year, we're just ready to play. And yeah, we're going to get better and do different things. We just need game reps. We need experience. We're going to get that. So we're excited to play. We're ready to get going on Thursday.
Yep, and it should be a fun matchup against a Hot Springs program that continues to improve year after year. What do you think has been the key to their success in continuing to build on that program and find ways to get better each and every season?
Well, I think they're just being really consistent. Coach Burnett, he's been over there for a while now. I think everybody on his high school team has, been in his program since he's been there. And so they're just being really consistent. He's grown it. He's built it. The kids have bought into him and what he wants done. And they do a great job at coaching their kids. He's got a great staff that gets them ready and prepared, and I think they're just more bought in than what you've probably seen in the past.
A hungry Trojan team, and it'll be fun to see them take on a hungry Badger team looking to pick up their first win of the season this Thursday night.
That's right.
Kind of unusual for us to say that, but we've got Thursday night football prior to the start of the professional season. You can catch some on that Thursday night right here on ArkadelphiaBadgerTV.com. Again, that's 7 o'clock Thursday night right here, and the game will take place in Hot Springs. Well, Coach, I think that's going to wrap up our first edition of this season of Inside Badger Football, but a lot of exciting football action to come here in 2023. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for watching us, and until next week, go Badgers!
Go Badgers.
Inside Badger Football is brought to you by Bell Wealth Services, Welch Funeral Home, Austin Wingfield State Farm, Southern Bank Corp., Southwest Sporting Goods, the accounting firm of Turner, Rogers, Manning, and Plyler, Taylor King Law, Price and Company, Doctors Rob and Gary Rucker, Eccles Thompson and Kneebone, Certified Public Accountants, South Central Connect, Java Primo, Southwest Auto, R&T Dixon Enterprises,
Arkadelphia Tire and Outfitters,
Patterson Federal Credit Union, Batson Signs, Print Mania, Agent Jake Knight at Pennington Insurance, Cry Like Pro Elite Realty, and Sheffield Music Company.
Inside Badger Football is produced weekly by the Ouachita Baptist University Rogers Department of Communications and the Ouachita Sports Digital Network.